Hey guys, what's up? It's Eric with Advanced Level Automotive. Welcome back to the channel. It's another hot day here in Houston, Texas. It's about 100 degrees outside. We got that triple-digit weather, so I'm sweating like a pig out here. Anyway, I got called out to the shop to come look at this 2013 Ford Escape. It's got the 4-cylinder engine, and the shop said that it's got all kinds of electrical issues, a bunch of communication issues. They can't communicate with the scan tool. I guess the vehicle actually, it starts and runs, but I guess when you put it into drive, I guess it just doesn't know when to shift. It runs really crappy. So anyways, I'm here to check it out. Now, I've already done some preliminary checking before I started making the video, so I kind of wanted to stop and bring you guys along on the journey to trying to figure out what's wrong with this. So let me get you guys caught up on what I figured out so far. All right guys, so the first thing that I noticed when I got out to the vehicle is that this thing looks like it had been in some type of accident. Now, I went ahead and I removed the headlight, but I'll explain that in a second. So you can see I've got the jump pack on here. The battery was completely dead when I got here, but the engine is running, so it starts and it runs. But let me take you inside real quick to show you what's going on. Okay, so I've got the scan tool up here, and I tried to do an automatic ID with the scan tool, but the scan tool could not pull the VIN number out of the PCM, so there's no communication there. Let me show you guys the instrument cluster. Again, the engine is running. If you look here, the tachometer is not working. We have multiple lights illuminated. Got the check engine light, we have oil light, we have the airbag lights, we have whatever this eye is, then we have the ABS lights, the brake lights, traction control light, and the tire pressure monitor light. So we have all of these lights on. And then if you look here in the center, you'll notice that we have a little message that says engine fault, service now. And there's also this tire pressure monitor fault. And then again, if you look up here, you see we have dashes where it says the distance to E. This is kind of a dead giveaway that we don't have communication with the engine computer. On a lot of Fords, if you see dashes along where it says here distance to empty, and it gives you the mileage, and it's just showing you dashes, a lot of times that's a good indication that it's not communicating with the ECM, or the instrument cluster is not communicating. Look down here, you see the actual mileage of the vehicle. You'll see that it's just got dashes there too. So looks like we have some communication issues. Also, if you look up here, the ambient temperature, you'll see that there's a bunch of dashes there. So we're losing communication somewhere. Again, got the scan tool, and let me do a quick auto scan, see if we can get any communication. Sorry, forget my touchscreen doesn't work. So I'm gonna go ahead and back out of this. Now, I went ahead and I manually inputted the VIN number into this. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on it. That is the VIN number, manually inputted. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit OK. Now it's going to decode that VIN number and input the vehicle. Okay, well, for some reason it's not working with the VIN number either. It's telling me that decoding failed. That's fine, let me back out. I'm just going to do manual input, so we're going to do manual selection. This is a Ford. Again, it's a Ford Escape, so let's go ahead and find Escape right there. This is the 1.6, I believe. Let me go double check the engine size. So if we move back under the hood, we'll look at the sticker, see if we can focus in on that. Yeah, we have a 1.6 liter. Let me go ahead and click 1.6. Again, this is a 2013 Ford Escape EcoBoost. Yep. All right, let's go into diagnosis. And let's go ahead and do an auto scan. This is going to attempt to scan all of the modules. As you can see, it just passed right over the PCM, the ABS module. Looks like it's scanning the IPC right now. We do have some fault codes there. The audio control module, we do have some fault codes there. BCM, it just skipped right over that, so there's no communication. Whenever you see it skip over a module while it's trying to scan it, you'll know that it doesn't have any communication with that module, so just keep an eye on this. Okay, so the auto scan is done. As you can see, we're only showing the instrument cluster, audio control module, the FICM, the GPSM, and the HVAC control unit. Let's go ahead and run a report on this. You can see what codes are popping up. Again, we have 12 codes in the instrument panel. Looks like we have a code for the malfunction indicator lamp. We have a control module communication bus off, lost communication with ECM, PCM, lost communication with ABS module, lost communication with power steering control module, lost communication with BCM, lost communication with restraint control module, invalid data received from ECM. So we have various communication codes here, and here we have some battery voltage codes in the other modules here. So let's see what else we have. Yeah, just some battery voltage codes. Again, the battery was dead when I got here, so that's probably why we're seeing these voltage codes, but we're also seeing some communication codes here. Essentially, we've got a big communication problem here. Now, initially when I saw this, my first thought was to go ahead and attack the CAN bus communication system using a lab scope and connecting that lab scope, 2 channels, one on pin 6 of the DLC connector and one on pin 14 of the DLC connector. Let me show you how I got that connected, and let me show you what I found on the lab scope. Okay, so let me take you guys underneath the dash to show you what I have connected. So you can see right here, I have my little breakout box. Let me pull it up here. And I have it connected to the data link connector. Now, the one thing I did notice is that there was this adapter connected to the OBD2 connector. Now, I don't know if this is factory or what this is actually used for, but I don't know why it was connected to the factory OBD2 port. And to me, it just didn't look like it was factory. So I went ahead and I removed it just so it wasn't interfering and I could have a direct connection to the OBD2 port here, the factory one. And so again, I have the breakout box connected, and then the breakout box allows me to attach the scan tool. So I have my little J box for my Autel. Now let me show you guys the leads that I have connected. So if you look on this breakout box on channel 1, I have the yellow lead connected to pin number 6, and the channel 2 lead, which is this green lead, connected to channel 14, or excuse me, pin 14. And then the ground, I have it connected to pin number 4, which is just a chassis ground. So I have that connected. I have the lab scope over here. Let me show you guys what I found. Oh man, guys, when I tell you it is hot, I am not exaggerating. I am sweating profusely. Okay, so looking at the lab scope here, you guys can see the yellow channel is the channel 1, and the green channel, the green line, is channel 2. Now if you look up here, you can see the voltages on both of these channels. We have about 13.5 volts on this channel 1 and about 16.5 volts on channel 2. So we have about system voltage on both of these channels. And the other thing you'll notice is that we don't have any activity. We don't see that the image is mirroring each other. We don't have any square wave or any type of waveform indicating that there's any communication happening on this CAN data bus communication line. So that to me is a big indication that there is something wrong. The other thing is that these voltages should not be this high. Normally with the CAN communication system, you should have somewhere between 2.5 volts, maybe even upwards of 3 volts on each line. But as you can see, we have system voltage on both of them. So that's an indication that we may have a short to power on the CAN communication line. So this could definitely be the reason why we have communication issues with all of the modules on the vehicle. Now let me take you guys outside and explain to you why I had to remove the headlight. Okay, so if you're following along, you probably understand why I was pretty certain that whatever this short to power was on the CAN communication line, it had to have something to do with this accident. Because I mean, look over here, we have this fender kind of smashed, the fender liner's missing, the bumper's hanging off there, and we had, you know, some wiring kind of hanging here. But I went ahead and I removed the headlight and I started kind of moving wiring around. And I'll tell you, when I was doing this, I had the lab scope up here on the cowl and I was watching the waveform, and I noticed when I moved the wiring harness here, the waveform went back to normal for like 10 seconds or so, and I thought, oh wow, I think I found the issue, but I could never recreate it. I could never duplicate it. And as you can see, I went ahead and I opened up the wiring harness where I thought there might have been some type of break in the wiring. I didn't find anything here. And I mean, I went through this whole wiring harness on this side of the vehicle trying to find where a wire might have gotten smashed, where we might have two wires touching each other or something like that. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I spent about half an hour going through this entire thing and I could not find any fault in the wiring. So I'm almost thinking that whatever that glitch was on the lab scope where I saw it go normal for just a few seconds, that might have just been a coincidence that I was touching the wiring here. All of a sudden the signal went back to normal, you know, and I correlated the two things. But you know, sometimes you can get fooled by that, and that's exactly what happened to me. I kind of chased my tail with this one, thinking that, you know, there had to be some type of wiring harness over here that was damaged, but I couldn't find anything. So anyways, this is where I'm at. Got you guys all caught up, so hopefully you guys will join me for the rest of this journey to trying to figure out where the short to power is on this CAN communication line. Okay guys, so I have the lab scope up here on the cowl, and hopefully you guys can see. I know it's really hard with the glare from the sun, but as you can see, we have two flat lines once again on the channels, and we're showing about system voltage, which is between 13.5, 12.5 volts. So what I'm gonna do is I'm basically gonna go across all of these wiring harnesses here. I'm just gonna move them, and then we're going to watch the waveform there. We're gonna see if we have any movement. We're gonna see if we have maybe a drop in the signal. That's really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the short voltage to disappear. Maybe the signal go back to normal, at least for just a moment. So again, I'm going to just wiggle all these wiring harnesses. Let me pop this up, move it out of the way. That way we can get a good visual here. Make sure we don't have any rodent damage. Maybe something might have been chewing the wiring. I mean, anything's possible. I've seen everything, so I wouldn't be surprised. But you know, we are going to be dealing with things that are tied to the CAN communication line. Then if we don't find anything wiggling these wiring harnesses, I think the next step would be to start maybe disconnecting modules and seeing if that changes anything. So let me go ahead and just kind of go along this wiring harness here and see if I find anything. All right guys, so I basically went through the entire engine wiring harness, or everything that was visible. I wiggled it, but I still am not coming up with anything. I didn't really see any change in the signal. So I think at this point, the next thing I want to do is try to remove this cowl, because it actually looks like somebody's been in here. If you look, the wiper arms have been removed, so somebody was doing some poking around. I think we should probably go ahead and remove this cowl. I already went ahead and took the screws off on the side, so it should just kind of pop out. Okay, so I went ahead and I removed the top piece of the cowl, which is this one over here. Now there's also this bottom piece here. I took the screws out, but it's still attached to this master cylinder reservoir, which has a Torx bit on it, and I didn't bring my Torx with me. But either way, it doesn't matter, because when I look under here, I can see clear as day. And up and behind this thing, there are no hidden wiring harnesses that run up here, other than the wires for the wiper motor, which there's a wiper motor over here and a wiper motor on the other side. And the harness just kind of runs up through here. There's a little hole in the body, and it comes up from the bottom, but there's no damage in this wiring here. I don't know if you guys can see that. And it's the same thing on the other side, so I don't see any wiring damage there. Again, I've already tried wiggling the harnesses out here. I can't seem to find any short to power, so I don't know. I think the next step might be to either start looking inside, maybe even start disconnecting modules, or maybe we can go pull up a wiring harness and see what all is involved in this CAN bus communication system. Okay guys, so we're here at the computer. I've got all data pulled up, and what we're looking at is a description for the communications network system on this vehicle. Now, when we talk about the communications network system, On this particular vehicle, we have 3 different subsystems. They're listed right over here. So starting at the top, you'll see we have the high-speed controller area network, also known as HSCAN. Then we also have the medium-speed controller area network, known as MSCAN. Then we also have the infotainment controller area network, known as ICAN. So these 3 subsystems are part of the controller area network system on this vehicle. And if we scroll down, they give us a little layout of what's involved in each subsystem. So I guess if we start over here where the data link connector is at, you'll see that we have 3 lines connecting to the data link connector. These 3 different lines are the 3 different CAN lines, or the 3 different subsystems. So if we follow it out this way, you'll see if we come over here, you'll find that it goes to the PCM, which is the powertrain control module. It also gives us a little notation here letting us know that the PCM has the terminating resistor for this CAN system. Then you'll see over here, we have something called the Apim, some type of module, maybe some type of gateway module, I'm not really sure. But you'll see that this is where the HSCAN connects to the Apim. And then again, if we follow it back this way over here, you'll see that it goes to these different modules right here. PAM, I'm not sure what that stands for. SASM, again, I'm not sure what that stands for. OSCM, I'm not really sure. HCM, PSCM, I believe that's the power steering control module. RCM, I believe that may be the restraint control module, or for the airbag system. I think also the OSCM may be for the airbag system, or the occupant safety system, something like that. Anyways, if you follow it over here, you'll see that it goes to the ABS module as well. And if we follow it over this way, you'll see it goes to the BCM. Now the BCM also has a terminating resistor, as you can see indicated by the notation right here. It says terminating. So the BCM is the terminating resistor for the HSCAN system. So again, this line right here connecting to the DLC connector, everything at the bottom here is going to be what is involved in the high-speed controller area network. Now, if we follow this line up through here, we'll follow it over this way to the APIM, and you'll see it tells us that it's the ICAN. So this line right here is for the infotainment. And if we follow it over this way, you'll see that it goes to the ACM, the FCDIM, DSP, FCIM, and then it also connects to the instrument panel, or the instrument cluster. And you'll notice here that it says terminating. So in this case, the instrument panel has a terminating resistor. It's notated right here, terminating. So everything here at the top is going to be for the ICAN. Then finally, if we look at this line right here coming off of the DLC connector, we'll follow it this way to the APIM. You'll see here it says MS CAN, so that's going to be the medium speed CAN. And if we follow it back, you can see the modules that are involved. We have this LTM. Again, I'm not sure what that stands for. We also have the TRM. We have the GPSM. We have the PDM, the RFA. We have DDM. We have IPMB. We have DSM. I don't know what any of these stand for, but that's part of the system there. So if we follow it this way, if you follow it down, you'll see it goes to the BCM, and there's a terminating resistor in the BCM for the MS CAN as well. And then if you follow it up, you'll see it also connects to the instrument cluster, or the instrument panel. And again, there's a terminating resistor in there for the MS CAN. So if you kind of look at the BCM and the instrument panel, these are both kind of gateway modules, because if you look here, the instrument panel ties the MS CAN with the ICAN, and the BCM ties the high-speed CAN with the medium-speed CAN. And so that's pretty much the overall layout of the system. Again, I don't know what the APIM module is for, but it looks like it's also some type of gateway where all 3 of these CAN communication network systems meet. Not really sure what the purpose is for that module, but what I can tell you right now is really what we need to focus on is going to be the high-speed controller area network, because this is where we don't have communication. If you guys noticed, when we did an auto scan using the scan tool, we were able to communicate with certain modules, such as the instrument panel, and I think the audio control module. I believe we were also able to communicate with the GPS module and the HVAC control module, those that I can remember. But if you guys look at this, you'll see why we were able to communicate with those modules, because they were on a different CAN bus communication network system. So the one we're going to be focusing on is going to be the high-speed controller area network, and that's where we connected on the data link connector, pins 6 and 14. Those two lines are designated for the high-speed controller area network, and that's where we have our short to power. So the next thing I want to do is go ahead and pull up a wiring diagram. We're going to look at the system in more detail and try to figure out where we might be having a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up a wiring diagram. And so we have 2 pages of wiring diagram for the controller area network system. Looks like this wiring diagram combines all of the subsystems here. So let me go ahead and zoom in on this one, pull it up, and then we're going to zoom in a little bit. Let's try to focus in over here on this side. We're going to start with the data link connector. So again, this is our data link connector on this side. Hopefully you guys can see that. And what we're going to focus on is pin number 6 and number 14. So number 6 is going to be this white and blue wire. We're going to go ahead and highlight this wire here. As you can see, when I clicked that wire, it highlighted that wire throughout the entire wiring diagram. And then we're going to highlight number 14, and it is going to do the same thing. So you can see that we have highlighted the wiring diagram for the high-speed controller area network system. I'm going to zoom out here, try to get an overview of the system here. And again, if we follow this up, you'll see that both of our lines, the high and the low lines for the high speed, go to the body control module. So we know there's a possibility that we could have a problem with the body control module, or maybe a wiring problem near the body control module that's located inside the vehicle here. It says the body control module is located on the right side of the dash. That's what it's telling us here on the wiring diagram. So, that may be something we can look at. If we move down here, here we have our Apim, also known as the Accessory Protocol Interface Module. This is that module where all of the CAN network systems meet. And it's not really telling me where it's located. Hopefully you guys can read this. Let me try to make the lettering a little bit bigger here. Okay, hopefully you guys can maybe see that a little bit better. Okay, so there's our Apim module here. Then if we follow it back over this way, let's go ahead and follow it down. See what modules we connect to over here. All right, so right down here, you'll see we have the steering angle sensor module located at the top of the steering column. So that may be somewhere we want to check. We also have the headlamp control module, HCM, located on the right side of the dash. So that's interesting. That may be one we might want to look at. We also have this restraints control module, RCM. It says it's located under center console. Then we have this occupant classification system module. It's located under the front passenger seat. Occupant classification system module, I believe that's the module that's used for the airbag system, or the module that weighs the passenger in order to determine whether or not it's going to activate or deactivate the passenger side airbag. So that may be somewhere we want to look. That one's located underneath the passenger seat. Moving over, we have the parking aid module, PAM. That one's located behind the right quarter panel. So that's something we may want to look at. We have the ABS module. This module is located left rear of engine compartment. I did check here and I kind of wiggled the harness and I didn't have any luck finding anything there. But, we could probably just go back to double check it. Again, if we follow this up, you'll see that we also have the power steering control module, PSCM, located on the lower left rear of engine compartment. So that may be somewhere we want to look underneath the vehicle. And if we follow this up, there's a junction inside of this battery junction box. So you can see where the wires go through the junction box and then they come out of the other side. And let me go ahead and highlight these. And you'll see that when they come back out of the junction box, they go over to the PCM, which is the powertrain control module, which is located on the left side of the engine compartment. So that's interesting that we have the battery junction box involved here. You know, it kind of leaves open a possibility that if we have a problem inside of this battery junction box, you know, we could have a short to power somewhere in here. The battery junction box is also the fuse box. So, I mean, there's a possibility. We're just kind of thinking right now, just brainstorming, trying to figure out what our next step is. So now that we know which modules are involved, I mean, we could start unplugging modules, or we could also just try wiggling the wiring harnesses and seeing if we may have a short to power somewhere, maybe a power wire touching one of these CAN lines and causing feedback through the system. I guess what we could do is look at maybe where these harnesses are located. You can see these splices kind of give us an idea of where some of these locations might be. You know, locations of splices are kind of key sometimes. Sometimes these splices where they're spliced can start to come apart. And if you have exposed wiring, then you could have, you know, it touching ground somewhere, or you could have, again, we have a short to power. So more than likely there's some type of wiring damage that caused some power wire to become exposed and it's touching one of the CAN lines. So, I mean, that's why to me, it's kind of key that we had a vehicle that has an accident or has some body damage. You know, that's kind of, to me, is kind of an area of something we need to focus on. But of course, I've already gone down that path and I really haven't had any luck. So I'm not really sure what to do. I'm just going to kind of go over this and brainstorm. Again, you'll see that we have some different locations that we may want to focus on regarding some of these connectors and splices. So if we look over here, you'll see that these splices right over here, it says that main wiring assembly near breakout to electric booster heater. You know, this may be an area of suspect. There's some splices up here. This splice here says steering wheel harness near breakout to the C260 connector. So this, you know, splice is near some type of breakout near the steering wheel harness. So, I mean, guys, we could have a problem anywhere on the vehicle that could be causing a short to power here. You know, if we have a break in the wiring where the steering wheel is at, you know, we could have it touching power. So really, we maybe want to go underneath the dash and maybe mess with some of this wiring, kind of play with it a little bit, move it around and see if we have, you know, any change in the signal in the lab scope. Also, if we look at this other splice here, it says main wiring assembly near breakout to panel floor mode door actuator. I mean, that's something else we may want to look at. Looking over here, main wiring assembly near breakout to passive anti-theft transceiver. I mean, I'm not really sure where that's at. We may have to pull up a wiring layout if we can find one. But again, guys, I think that maybe we need to focus on the inside of the vehicle versus the outside, because I feel like I've already kind of gone through the wiring on the outside. Maybe we want to start moving into the vehicle and trying to check the wiring harnesses inside the vehicle, maybe wiggle them around, again, seeing if our signal changes. Maybe I'll go under the dash, move the wiring around the steering wheel, maybe go behind the glove box, move some wiring, or go to where one of these modules might be located, or maybe even underneath the seat. We have the Occupant classification system control module. Again, it says underneath the passenger seat. So, you know, we may have a problem there. Maybe a water bottle rolled under the seat. You know, I've seen that before. And maybe, you know, it causes the wires to kind of get jammed up against the seat rail, causing a short to power. That's a possibility. Again, the restraint control module, it says here it's located under the center console. I mean, there may be another place we want to check. Again, guys, I'm just brainstorming here. I know this isn't really a straightforward answer, you know, to what we might be looking for. We're just basically trying to get an overview of the system to understand where the wiring travels what modules are involved, so that we can better focus on what it is we should be attacking. So again, with this knowledge in mind, I'm going to go ahead and head back to the vehicle and start doing some checks. All right, guys, let me apologize if I'm skipping ahead here, but I think I figured out what the problem is. I'm sorry I didn't catch this on camera. Like I said, it's 100 degrees outside today. I'm sweating. This shop's getting ready to close down. And in fact, they've already closed down the shop. So I'm just trying to do this before I have to leave. So let me show you guys what I found. Anyways, I came back to the vehicle, pretty much concerned that, you know, we had a wiring problem maybe inside of the vehicle. And then I looked over here where the fender was, you know, and I said, well, that can't be good, because I looked at the body in here and you see how there's some body damage on the inside there. So I went to open the door, and you know, the door is kind of hard to open, but it does open. So initially I was worried about that. Then I looked at the door jamb, you know, I was worried about the wiring harness here. But in fact, you know, the CAN lines don't run through the doors because there are no door modules. So, you know, I really wasn't too concerned about that. So I looked down here. I was thinking, you know, maybe because the body was damaged on the outside, maybe one of these wiring harnesses got squished or something. But I didn't find anything. Everything looked pretty good. And so I decided to look underneath the seat. And let me show you guys what I found. So all of this was tucked underneath the seat. And when I looked at these wires, they were all torn up, or they were cut up, and this connector was disconnected. All of this wiring was just shoved underneath the seat there. And if you guys recall from the wiring diagram, there's supposed to be an occupation restraint control module or something like that underneath the passenger seat. And I don't see it down there, but I do see the connector for it. And I see what looked like my two CAN lines. So if you look here, there's a white and a blue wire, and then there's a white wire. So these are the two CAN lines. And what I noticed immediately when I pulled this harness out and I separated these pins, all of a sudden I heard a dinging from the instrument cluster. And check out what I noticed. Let me see if I can climb over here and show you guys. So take a look at that distance to empty. We got 96 miles. And also take a look at the mileage. We have 109,253 miles. No longer any dashes. What does this mean? That means we regained communication. Look at the tachometer. We're showing a reading on the tachometer. Now our lights are still on. But you know, we're gonna have multiple codes in the system. But what I can tell you right now is that we now have communication. And look, I'm not lying when I tell you it's 100 degrees outside, because check this out. The ambient temperature, 100. So even up here, if you look, 100 Fahrenheit. So guys, I'm not lying when I tell you it's hot out here. Anyway, so I talked to the shop owner, and he called the customer. And so we got a little more of a backstory on this. Apparently, the customer took the vehicle to her uncle, and her uncle, I don't know if he was, you know, maybe a little bit out of his mind, or maybe he was on something, but I guess he was kind of convinced that somebody was tracking her vehicle. And so she said that she didn't know what he did, but he went into her vehicle and cut up a bunch of wires and removed some stuff because he thought that they were tracking the vehicle. Now that makes sense, because when I look underneath the seat, again, this is where the occupation restraint control module is. It's no longer there. The harness is cut up. And what was happening was these terminals here were touching. So I'm assuming these terminals here are for the CAN lines, and they were accidentally touching whatever this yellow wire is, which I'm pretty sure is a hot power feed. And that's why we were having that back feeding power into the CAN bus communication system. So, I mean, guys, that, as weird as that sounds, that's what our problem is. We now have communication with all of the modules. I can go ahead and connect the scan tool. I can show you that we can read the VIN number and we can communicate with all of the modules. So let me go ahead and show you that right now. Oh, and by the way, guys, let me show you the lab scope and our CAN bus communication signal. So if you look here, you'll see that on both channels. Channel 1, we have 2.8 volts. Channel 2, we have 2.13 volts. And you see we have a nice mirrored image As far as the pattern goes, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here, get you guys a little more detail on the signal. We'll switch this over to a 10 volt scale and maybe zoom in a little bit here. Okay, so you guys can see we have a nice CAN bus communication signal. I paused it. Let me try to get a better capture here. Okay, so as you can see, when this channel is going down, this channel is going up. So we have a nice, good, clean mirrored image. That's a good sign that we have good communication all across the CAN bus communication system. So let me go ahead and show you guys the scan tool. Okay, so looking at the scan tool, the first thing I noticed was that I was able to automatically identify the vehicle using the VIN number. So the scan tool was able to detect the VIN number from the engine computer. Now we can go ahead and click on auto scan. Pay attention, it's going to scan all of the modules. You'll see the PCM, ABS, RCM. Pay attention to this one, OSCM, you saw that one? That was the occupant safety restraint module. It skipped over that one, but it's communicating with everything else. Pay attention here. See it scanning. We have communication pretty much all across the board now, but we are missing communication with the OSCM, which is the occupant safety control module. And that is the module that is located underneath the passenger seat. But like I said, I don't know whatever this guy was on, but I'm pretty sure he thought that that module underneath the seat was some type of tracking device. And so in his mind, he thought it was a good idea to just go ahead and rip it out. And then he left the wiring hanging there, and those two wires were touching each other. We were having power backfeeding through the CAN bus communication system network, and that's what was causing all of the communication errors that we were having. We now have communication. Everything's back to normal. Our job here is done. Now the fix is going to be actually replacing the occupant safety control module and repairing that wiring harness. So that's not my job. The shop is going to take care of that. I'm done here. I'm ready to go home. Like I said, it's super hot outside, so I can't wait to get into the comfort of the AC of my vehicle, get out of here, and then move on to the next thing. Anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it informational. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.